Chapter 397. Cough, cough. Sha-bun was startled by Tianya's difficulties. He coughed twice and turned to his subordinates. All of you leave. His subordinates left with an indignant expression. It was not as if the Sand Yellow clan did not have a legendary existence. This was also an important factor that prompted the Lord of Spitfire City to take the initiative to invite Sha-bun. Sha-bun continued, Miss Tianya, pick the next one. He ignored Tianya's mockery and showed a good demeanor. Tianya opened the second treasure chest. Inside was a model of a ship, but as long as one looked carefully, they would find that in many subtle aspects, this model ship was still very different from a normal ship. Tianya's pupils shrank slightly, revealing a hint of curiosity. This is a magic ship? Your eyes are as bright as a torch. Sha-bun praised and reached out to take out the ship model. He reached out and stroked the ship model, revealing a look of reminiscence on his face. I didn't expect you to choose this ship. I put this in deliberately. As you can see, it is a magic ship. It is not a ship, but a sand ship able to sail in the desert. Although its size is not huge and its carrying capacity is not high, it cannot be compared to a normal ship. But it was my favorite toy when I was young. When I grew up to be a teenager, my father told me how to open this sand ship. I often drove this sand ship, speeding in the vast and boundless sea of sand. It can be said that it accompanied me as I grew up, and to me, it has a special meaning. At this point, Sha-bun handed the sand ship to Tianya. Tianya opened her hands and took it. She first sensed the weight of the ship. It was very light. This meant that this sand ship, as an alchemy item, must have a large number of magic runes to reduce its weight. It was even very likely that it was an alchemy array formed by a large number of runes. Her pupils emitted a dazzling white light. Under the light, the surface of the sand ship became faintly transparent. Tianya immediately saw a complete set of formations. The complexity of the formations made her feel a little dizzy at first glance. The sand boat's grade wasn't low. It was a gold-grade magic boat. The person who created it was ingenious, using large-scale reduction formations and weight control runes. When the seal on the sand boat was removed, it could quickly return to its original size and weight. When the sand boat turned into a model, not only did it shrink in size, but its weight also decreased drastically. At the same time, its aura was restrained to the extreme, almost no different from an ordinary item. The structure of this sand boat is exquisite, but it also has flaws. The biggest flaw was that although it used multiple arrays, they were too complicated. The space that can be used in other aspects is not large. The most important manifestation is in the aspect of power. Brick observed for a while and commented. However, the creator must have noticed the flaws of this magical ship, so he made other arrangements at the front of the sand boat. Does your ship still have auxiliary power? It should be some kind of beast or alchemy item that can pull sand boats. Whether it was the alchemy tongue or the current alchemy eyes, they were all her alchemy methods. Her comments were comprehensive and insightful, reflecting her strong attainments in alchemy. Shazun couldn't help but clap and nodded. Miss Tianya, your comments hit my heart. The bigger I get, the slower I feel this sand boat is. It does need auxiliary power. Without auxiliary power, it can't run fast. This power is the Barracuda beast. Tianya nodded slightly, listening very seriously. She knew about the Barracuda beast. It was a magical beast that was more common in the desert. Its body was like a sailfish and a hairtail, and it was good at shuttling under the sand. Its body contained an extremely weak dragon blood, belonging to a low-level dragon beast. Shazun said, the Barracuda beast is a magical beast that can be tamed. As long as there are giant groups living in the desert, they will usually tame it. Once the Barracuda beast is successfully tamed, it will be very loyal to its master, willing to fight for its master, even to death. It is equivalent to the hunting dogs domesticated by human nobles. When I was a child, I lacked playmates. The one that accompanied me the most was a Barracuda beast that my father tamed. It was already very old. It was warm and slow, letting me play on it as a child. It died when I was 6 years old. That was the saddest thing in my childhood. Even if my father found me other new barracuda beasts, I didn't feel happy, let alone forget it. When I was young, I gradually disliked the original speed of the boat and began to catch barracuda beasts in the desert myself. Often, I would spend a lot of effort to catch them alive. Then, I would tame them myself. They never let me down, are very loyal, and obey my orders. It is best to collect 16 barracuda beasts and form a herd of beasts to pull the boat. This way, the sand boat can run the fastest. Although the sand boat can provide 20 barracuda beasts to pull at the same time, 20 is too many. It will be very inconvenient to turn, and even capsize when turning because the speed is too fast. On the contrary, in terms of speed, 20 is about the same as 16. More than 16, the space between the barracuda beasts is very narrow. When pulling the sand boat, they often interfere with each other. Obviously, the alchemist who designed this sand boat didn't have much research in beast taming. At this point, Sha Bun grinned at Zhuya. This is my experience. I often controlled the sand boat and drove the school of barracudas in the desert, crossing sand dunes after sand dunes. I raised my head and laughed in the furious sandstorm, allowing the sand to hit my chest and my face. Sha Bun's eyes lit up when he said this. He naturally puffed out his chest and fell into a beautiful memory. No wonder you have pits on your face. Zhuya suddenly said. Huh? Sha Bun subconsciously touched his face. His face was indeed full of pits, but wasn't this normal? Giants usually had bad skin, especially the sand yellow tribe that lived in the desert all year round. Is it delicious? Zhuya asked again. What? Sha Bun didn't react for a while. Zhuya smiled. I mean, is the meat of the barracuda beast delicious? The smile on Sha Bun's face became stiff. Zhuya asked again. You said you drove the boat in the sandstorm and laughed. The wind and sand didn't fill your mouth? You like to drink the wind and eat the sand? Sha Bun. Chapter 398. Cough Cough. Facing Xia's sarcasm, Sha Zhan could only change the topic again. Miss Xia, please choose the third one. However, according to our customs, the third one is also the last one. You didn't choose the most valuable treasure chest for the previous two. Now, you have one more chance. Speaking up to this point, Sha Zhan pondered for a moment and revealed a little. This treasure itself is at the saint level. To me, it's not very useful. But to you, and even to the aristocratic clan leader, it's extremely helpful. The creator of this treasure is Great Grandmaster Qiao Fu. Hearing Qiao Fu's name, Xia's expression changed, and her eyes revealed a solemn expression. She originally wanted to choose directly, but now she was somewhat hesitant. To be honest, she didn't care about what treasure she could get. But if she could help the Lord of Spitfire City, Xia couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. She looked at the pile of treasure chests and muttered, I'm a little curious. Are there any other hints? This was obviously the best time to curry favor with Xia. But Sha Zhan revealed a solemn expression for the first time in this meeting. He slowly shook his head. I'm sorry. The story of the Divine King's 3 treasures is not just a story, but also a part of our customs and beliefs. Miss Xia should also know this story. If you know what's hidden in the treasure chest beforehand, then what's the point of choosing? For things that are not fated, you can't force it. Just like my marriage with you. The last sentence caused a strange expression to appear on Jiya's face. Since the meeting, she had been deliberately making things difficult and sarcastic. This attitude already showed her thoughts on this marriage. Sha Zhan's words revealed that he was already mentally prepared for the failure of this marriage. This immediately made Xia feel a little more relaxed, and for the first time, she found Sha Zhan pleasing to the eye. All right, then I'll choose this one. Xia didn't hesitate and randomly chose a treasure chest. There was no difference between the appearance of the treasure chest. Of course, there might be flaws, but Xia needed to use all her strength to investigate. Just like how she tasted the wine with her tongue and used the strange light in her eyes to see through the sandboat model. These were all her alchemy. But just as Sha Bun had said, this selection was not a game, nor was it purely to curry favor with Zhuya. It also contained the customs and beliefs of the Sha Huang tribe. especially when it came to faith, it was not allowed to be slandered. Therefore, if Zhuya were to use alchemy to check the truth of the treasure chest like before, then she would be offending Shaban and even the Sha Huang clan. Although Zhuya was unwilling to have a marriage alliance, she did not want to make enemies out of nothing and cause trouble for her most respected and beloved lord of Fire Spray City. The last treasure chest was opened. Inside was a piece of paper and a pen. There was no need for Shaban to explain. Zhuya was already disappointed. She could see that although this was an alchemy treasure, it was definitely not the work of Qiao Fu. Unfortunately, young Miss Jinya, you didn't choose that treasure in the end. Sha Chuan shook his head with a sincere expression. It's not that I don't want to help you. Actually, I don't know the difference between these boxes or what's inside them. The one who keeps these treasure chests is one of our elders. Although his strength has fallen to gold rank, under his strict supervision, I, the only future successor, cannot violate the rules. But at this point, Sha Bun changed the topic again. Although this treasure chest does not contain the most valuable treasure, it is still very precious. It can even be said that it is more suitable for us than that treasure. This piece of paper is pitch black inside and out. It is the skin of a legendary black scribble. And this white pen, according to the information left behind by the creator, is called a signal pen. The black paper and the white pen need to be used together to display the power of this set of alchemy items. This was accidentally discovered by the warriors of my tribe during an exploration of ruins. The specific way to use it is to tear this piece of black paper into two halves and separate them into two places. As long as one side uses the signal pen to write on one half of the black paper, then the words on the other half of the black paper will appear. We have yet to measure the current limit of communication. Let's put it this way. Even if we are separated by a vast ocean, you are on the fire-breathing island, and I am on the frost continent, we can still communicate through this piece of paper. The time difference is almost zero, and the content is not distorted. As far as I know, the current information transmission of the Imperial Navy through the most advanced magic communication device, the time difference is about half a day to a day. Jia nodded slightly. What you are referring to is the usual communication method of the Imperial Navy. Of course, they also have emergency communication methods, similar to this one, which cannot be used often. Jia picked up the black paper and began to use alchemy to study it again. After a while, she had results. The black scribble is a magical beast of the shadow plane. The reason why this alchemy item can be transmitted quickly is because of the shadow plane. It is equivalent to taking a detour, so it can do things that conventional advanced communication devices can't do at the smallest cost. Because of this, if someone discovers its operating principle, they will target it through the shadow plane. Once targeted, this alchemy item will easily lose its effectiveness, and it may even transmit false information. These words made the smile on Sha Bun's face stiffen again. But Jia changed the topic. It uses biological alchemy, and now, in this field, the world's best at it should be the war dealers. This is not the field that teacher and I are good at. If we give this to teacher, perhaps it can give her some inspiration and ideas. Sha Bun laughed and looked deeply at Jia. If this treasure can bring some help to the Lord of Fire-Breathing City, that would be the best, and it would also be our honor. However, I hope that we can use this treasure to transmit information to each other. Jia frowned immediately. Sha Bun spread out his hands and smiled. Even if our marriage fails, it doesn't mean that we can't cooperate, right? We can also be friends. Between friends, there is nothing strange about communicating through letters, right? Jia's frown deepened. Sha Bun sighed. Actually, Ms. Jia, you don't have to do this. My caravan has been stationed in Fire-Breathing City for some time, and we have not been idle during this time. The Lord of Fire-Breathing City has invited many outstanding giants, but they have all failed in their attempts to marry you. Among them, there are even some with better conditions than me. You don't like these people, so I have long been prepared for failure. As for writing letters and communicating with each other, it is not that I want to continue pestering you. It is because you and I have a lot of room for cooperation, and we can support each other as excellent allies. Fire-Breathing City is not big, and can even be said to be weak. Just like my tribe, we should be close and help each other. Jia could not help but raise her eyebrows and sneered. You say that my fire-breathing city is weak? Of course. Shaban raised his index finger. There's a very important point. Strength and weakness are relative. Fire-breathing city has the Lord, Miss Jia, and other outstanding giants. Compared to the majority of forces, it is upper class. But compared to the Sacred Empire, of course it is weak. Jia sneered again. The Empire is the strongest force in the origin world. No one can compare to it. That's right. Shaban retracted his hand and put it on his knee, straightening his back. It is because we are weak that we need to save ourselves. In my opinion, your tribe's foundation in fire-breathing city is already in danger. And if you don't take advantage of this last opportunity to find a way out, your tribe's future will be bleak. Then the future of the nobles will be bleak, and it is possible that they will reach the end of their road. Jia's face became ugly. You are just trying to scare me. Of course not. Shaban's tone became heavier, changing his previous gentle attitude. His body became extremely serious, and his gaze was dignified as he stared at Jia. I know the history of your tribe very well, and it was once very glorious. In the Red Earth Plateau, there was even the embryonic form of a kingdom. But unfortunately, before the founding of the kingdom, you encountered the expansion of the Sacred Empire at the crucial moment. You are the last and largest giant tribe in the Sacred Continent. Facing the incomparably powerful empire, you can only choose to rely on them. Resistance will be destroyed, and escape will be captured. The Emperor's gaze is everywhere. Jia retorted, At that time, we were about to engage in a national war. It was the Shengming Emperor who came in person and discussed with the elders of my tribe. After paying a certain price, we agreed to the alliance proposed by the Shengming Emperor. Since then, our tribe has become an ally of the Sacred Empire. Ally? Shaban showed a sarcastic smile. Then how does the Empire treat its allies? The vast and rich Red Earth Plateau was once the home of the nobles. Then what about now? The Red Earth Plateau is full of people, and all of them are human towns. And what about the nobles? Why are they huddled on this island? This time, it was Jia's turn to be silent. Chapter 399. Seeing the silent Jia, Shaban continued. The Empire used its military power to conquer its enemies. At the same time, it used its brilliant political skills to deal with its allies. Once, the Red Earth Plateau was your home. Almost all of it was your land. But after hundreds of years of evolution, the Empire used various names and ingenious methods to divide the Red Earth Plateau. There are rich minerals there. How much do you have now? Jia snorted and stared at Shaban. Are you trying to sow discord between my race and the Empire? Shaban quickly shook his head. I'm just telling the truth. Even if we don't talk about you in the Red Earth Plateau, let's talk about the southern nobles in the past 100 years. The Empire's final battle to unify the sacred continent attracted many southern nobles. How did the Empire deal with these people who surrendered? Look, none of them are in a good situation. For example, the Hundred Needles family. They used to be one of the leaders of the southern nobles and were prominent for a time. And now, their only remaining territory is about to be lost. Not long ago, the only heir of this family even had a shipwreck. Ridiculous, right? According to intelligence, this heir is said to have joined the Temple Knights and is a Temple Knight who believes in the Shengming Emperor. If the Empire treats humans like this, how does it treat us giants? Shaban's question made Jia's expression more and more ugly. He then changed the topic and began to praise the Lord of Spitfire City. To be honest, I admire the Lord of Spitfire City very much. Back then, the demon army came out of hell and ravaged the origin world. The huge catastrophe made all the races unite and fight together. The wave of large-scale counterattack made the demons flee in all directions. The Lord of Spitfire City volunteered to sacrifice herself and go to Spitfire Island to guard the weak space here. It was this opportunity that allowed you to jump out of the trap of the Red Earth Plateau. Under great pressure, The Lord of Spitfire City brought her people to live on Spitfire Island and multiplied to this day. If the situation had been allowed to develop, your entire race would have probably died on the Red Earth Plateau. The Empire's methods and schemes are endless. What's funny is that it is said that many giants in the race opposed her, thinking that she became the Empire's lackey. Many giants were willing to stay on the Red Earth Plateau. And now, where are the giants left on the Red Earth Plateau? Everything proves that the City Lord is so far-sighted. She's a legendary level expert, a master alchemist, but at the same time, she's an excellent leader with great foresight. Because of her existence, the nobles can temporarily treat Firespray Island as their home. Otherwise, I'm afraid your situation will be even more miserable than the Hundred Needles clan. Juya remained silent. The Lord of Spitfire City was the person she respected the most. Sha Bun's praise resonated with her, but at the same time, the danger and crisis he described made her heart heavy. Although Chueya devoted almost all his energy to alchemy, he was smart and not stupid. He was not ignorant about the current situation. So, Sha Chuan took a deep breath, his expression extremely sincere. Even if you don't want to marry me, I will regret it, but I will not force you. I don't have the ability to force you. However, as a fellow giant, I would like to sincerely advise you, Miss Zia, please treat the marriage seriously. Even if you're disgusted or even disgusted by it, please think about your own tribe. Even if you don't think about your tribe, think about the City Lord. Doesn't the City Lord know that you are against the marriage? But why does she have to organize it again and again? She has been leading the giant tribe on Firespray Island. This is the last flame of the giant descendants of the Red Earth Plateau. Please trust her and believe in your leader. These words were like a heavy hammer, fiercely pounding on Juya's heart. Juya couldn't help but change her expression clearly wavering. Sha Chuan continued to strike while the iron was hot. I said before that Firespray Island is in a precarious situation. This is not nonsense, nor is it an alarmist talk. The Shengming Emperor has set off a hurricane of an era. He controls the entire Shengming Empire and has placed his weapon on the neck of the Beastmen. The Shengming continent is attacking the Wilderness continent, and the humans are invading the Beastmen. This is bound to be a huge battle. Both sides are preparing for a great war. This kind of great war is not just one. It is likely to be 2 or 3. The Shengming continent is on an expedition, and the Beastmen are fighting on their home ground. The Empire must ensure the safety of the sea transportation line. The Empire needs it to continue to transport troops and food. This is the lifeline of the Empire, and Firespray Island's geographical location is too important. It is not close to the Wilderness continent, but it is also far away from the Shengming continent. It is the most important pillar of the sea transportation line. If the Beastmen want to defeat the Empire, they will attack and even destroy the transportation line, which will be a great interference and blow to the Empire. They will definitely think of ways to attack here and destroy Firespray Island. And what about the Shengming Empire? Those high and mighty Grand Dukes, the living gods, will not know the importance of the transportation line. Will they still leave Firespray Island in the hands of the giants? Hand over the lifeline of the entire Shengming Empire to the outsiders? So, they will definitely make a move on Firespray Island. I don't know what method the Empire will use, but I'm sure that they have been preparing for it for a long time. The Empire will definitely make a move earlier than the Beastmen. Once they make a move, what will happen to Firespray Island? Can you defend it? Brick's face was pale. She stared into Sha Bun's eyes and gritted her teeth. So, you said so much just to remind me that this marriage is very likely a way out for our race. So, the marriage between you and me is necessary? Sha Bun sighed. Miss Brick, please don't be angry with me, because I'm not forcing you on this matter. The essence and truth of this matter is that the Empire is forcing your entire race, and even the Beastmen of the entire Wilderness continent. At this moment, you and I are sitting here, facing each other, talking for the first time. It is not you and me who are pushing for this. We are geniuses, saints, powerhouses, but in front of the Empire, we are still so weak that we are not worth mentioning. We can only be swept away by the hurricane of this era, unable to control ourselves. Brick lowered her head and fell into a long silence. After a long while, she finally spoke. Her voice was a little hoarse. "What about you?" she asked Shaban. "You are right. For a long time, I have been immersed in the field of alchemy and paid little attention to the outside world. Even if I had a bad feeling about the future, I did not delve into it to this extent. Every time I am worried, I will think of the master of the city. Today, thank you for your guidance. However, what you said is nothing more than to achieve the purpose of your marriage. As a member of Fire Spray City, the descendants of the giants of the Red Earth Plateau, we are indeed in danger. What about you? The Sand Yellow tribe is far away in the Frost Continent. Why did you come all the way here to marry us?" Shaban laughed. "Ha ha." His eyes shone. "Miss Brick, do you know when the sandboat is the fastest?" Without waiting for Brick to answer, he continued, "It is in the fierce wind. There are often opportunities and danger. Only in the fierce sandstorm can the best barracuda beasts be caught. Whenever a hurricane strikes, yellow sand flutters all over the sky, and sand dunes collapse. The underground barracuda beasts will be alarmed and begin to run around. They are extremely fast, and in front of a natural disaster, they squeeze out every bit of strength in their bodies, bursting out the most dazzling brilliance in their lives. In order to survive, they twist their bodies and can even jump up, piercing the wind and sand curtain like sharp arrows. They are simply riding the wind. If I want to catch the best barracuda beasts, I will directly catch those that jump the highest." Speaking of this, Shaban paused, revealing a leisurely look. "Do you know, I like to see the magnificent scene of those barracuda beasts jumping in the sandstorm like flying. The barracuda beasts themselves are at most silver level. They can't fly at all, and their body structure is like this. Speaking of which, they are only in the middle and lower levels of the desert food chain. However, at that moment, when life and death are at stake, when the world is vast and mighty, they seem to be flying in the air, unwilling to accept their established bloodline, unwilling to accept the fate of death, and leap with all their might. I think, at that moment, they have surpassed themselves, the limits of their race, and even fate. Speaking of this, Shaban covered his heart, not looking at Chianya in front of him, but turned to the window, looking at the distant sky and sea. His voice also became a little hoarse. "Although I have the superior bloodline of the Sand Yellow clan, I have reached my limit now. Countless times I have tossed and turned, unable to sleep, alone, lying in the desert, looking at the stars in the night sky. My cultivation has not improved, and it is almost impossible to move an inch. Genius? It is only to a certain extent. Chianya, you should be like this too. But you have the field of alchemy for you to continue exploring. Can your strength continue to increase? The holy domain is our limit. This is the concentration of our bloodline, and it cannot be changed. And the Sand Yellow clan, although the overlord of the region and occupies a lot of resources, has reached its limit. This is the limit of the entire clan. Just like the barracuda beasts, they can't fly. But I'm not reconciled. The barracuda beasts can leap with all their might, and I have to fight with all my strength. The gale raised by the Sacred Empire was my gale. Even if in the end I fall to the ground and die in the sandstorm, I am willing, because I've tried my best, jumped with all my strength, and laughed heartily. Indeed, laughing in the sandstorm, the wind and sand will pour into my mouth, but I am in a good mood." Chapter 400. This guy. Brick looked at Shaban with a strange expression on her face. It was only at this moment that she truly sized up the male giant in front of her. At this moment, Shaban's serious, fascinated, and fanatical expression was emitting his unique personal charm. Thinking back to his words, Brick's heart also resonated with him. Yes, she was the same as Shaban. They were both geniuses in people's eyes, the darlings of fate. However, the concentration of their bloodline made them successful, but also limited them. When they reached their current level, They had all reached the limit of their bloodline and touched the ceiling. Their cultivation, which had once advanced rapidly, seemed to have died on the spot at this point. Moving was like moving a mountain. Depression, despair, unwillingness. When mortals looked up to transcendent being, they would have all kinds of negative emotions. When low-level transcendent beings looked up to high-level transcendent beings, they would also have these emotions. When high-level transcendent beings reached the limit of their lives, their cultivation path would suddenly come to an end, and they would also have these emotions. Moreover, these emotions were even stronger because of their previous carefree and glorious experiences, because of the contrast between before and after. Brick threw her entire body and mind into the field of alchemy to release these negative emotions. Shotbun, on the other hand, was ambitious and wanted to fight for his life in the hurricane of the era. The sound of people coming in from outside the window became noisy. The main city gate opened wide, and the welcoming team played music. This movement attracted the attention of Brick and Shotbun. The two of them looked into the distance and saw the legendary Lord of Spitting Fire City leading the graceful Tucker in a Spitting Fire City. On both sides of the street, apart from the ceremonial team, there were elite guards as well as onlookers and cheering citizens. Looking at Tucker, who had a smile on his face and a perfect combination of the demeanor of a noble and a mage, Shotbun and Brick couldn't help but frown. Brick protested for the Lord of Spitting Fire City. The Lord of Spitting Fire City was the existence she respected and loved the most. Now, he was actually welcoming a saint as a legend. What did he, Tucker, have to do? Therefore, she had a natural dislike for Tucker. Shotbun, on the other hand, was cautious and vigilant. Those who are not of our race must have different hearts. This sentence was not only circulated among humans, but also among dragons, giants, elves, dwarves, orcs, and so on. The human race was the most powerful race and the biggest threat to the other races. The Shungming Emperor's powerful battle prowess and illustrious battle achievements shocked everyone. At this moment, Jaya felt how insignificant and weak he was from the bottom of his heart. She had been discovered since she was very young. She had been nurtured by the Lord of Spitfire City, who had taught her countless times and led her into the field of alchemy. Jia did not have a deep impression of the Red Earth Plateau, but she had a deep attachment to the fire-breathing island and a strong feeling for her home. Because of the protection of the legendary champion and the trust and support of the race, the environment in which Brick grew up was very safe, even comfortable. The entire journey was smooth sailing. Ever since she was young, she had been practicing magic and meditating diligently. After coming into contact with alchemy, every day was a race against time to work and rest, trying to absorb every bit of knowledge. Cultivation and more cultivation. Study, continue to study. Perhaps the fact that her cultivation base had stagnated after entering the Saint Domain was the greatest setback she had ever suffered in her life. In order to get rid of those negative emotions, she devoted herself to exploring the field of alchemy. Which girl didn't yearn for love? As a giant, Jay was also a young girl. In her free time, she would read many novels and had expectations and yearnings for her love. Why can't we always be peaceful? Why is there a war? Why does the Empire not hesitate to go on an expedition? Why can't we live peacefully like this? Why does it have to interfere with our lives? We live on the fire-breathing island and never bully the weak or do evil things. Chaotic thoughts floated in her heart. Jaya looked at the tall city gate, the noisy citizens, and Tucker, whose physique and life aura were obviously weaker than the Lord of Spitfire City. But at this moment, they were communicating with each other as equals. Chwaya also felt a wave of power. Shotbun saw the hurricane covering the sky and the earth, about to sweep through the sky. Jaya smelled the terrifying humidity, and the surging tsunami was about to arrive. Under the crushing of the general trend, the small fire-breathing island was in danger. Today's conversation with Shotbun was like a key that opened the window of her heart. Before this, it wasn't that she didn't feel all kinds of signs, but she had never really looked at it. So I've been running away. Just like how I exile myself to the field of alchemy to escape the pain and despair of my stagnant cultivation. From this point of view, Shaban is much stronger than me. Jaya's heart was also filled with mixed feelings about Shaban. She was a giant girl and had a pure and beautiful yearning for love like a swan. But now, she was like a toad, which made her disappointed and disgusted. But at this moment, Jaya, whose mentality had changed, was no longer a stubborn rejection. She opened her mouth and finally looked at Shaban with a hesitant expression. You are indeed different. I don't know how you fight. When will you come to the arena? Shaban was stunned. As far as he knew, this was the custom of the giants of the Red Earth Plateau. Between male and female giants, if they wanted to obtain recognition and a breakthrough in their relationship, they must first compete with each other. If the pursuer lost, he would naturally have no face or chance to get close to them. It's my honor. In the battle with Miss Chia, I will definitely do my best. Sha Chuan did not conceal the joy in his heart. He could not help but stand up and salute. That's it. Jaya stood up and was about to leave. Please wait a moment. Shaban suddenly spoke and took out an item from his bosom and offered it with both hands. This is my gift, a personal gift, a ring. To be more precise, it was a thumb ring. But Jaya's eyes were unique and immediately recognized it. This is the first fist ring. It is the head of the 5 fist rings. Gather all 5 fist rings and combine them to form the legendary glove. Zwa Tuesday, of course. One can also use it alone, but the transformed glove's grade will be lowered to the sacred level. The first fist ring, one of the components of the legendary glove. Jaya did not choose the sacred level alchemy puppet, but Shaban gave her another treasure in the end. As a chi cultivator, Shaban could use this fist ring himself, and it was one of the components of a legendary weapon, which was very valuable. But now, he gave it to Jaya as a gift, which showed his sincerity. As far as I know, the current owner of the first fist ring is the Navy's Vice Admiral Gongdu. Jaya sized up Shaban with deep meaning. Shaban smiled. Gongdu is already dead. I killed him. Jaya could not help but raise his eyebrows. Shaban spread his hands and said again, he intercepted our fleet and was not willing to pay the fee we paid, so he wanted to search the ship. If he found those treasure chests, he would not let it go. So I made the first move. Jay was silent. Vice Admiral Gongdu was very strong, but Shaban killed him. Most importantly, the news was concealed. The Shah Huang clan had been stationed on Spitfire Island for so many days, but the Empire's navy never showed any signs of coming. It was clear that Shaban had many tricks up his sleeve. So, your caravan robbed the Empire's navy first? Jia was silent for a while before speaking. Shaban laughed. How should I put it? Don't all caravans do this kind of thing? When they're doing business, they will become bandits when they encounter something they can rob. To be honest, I don't think that becoming a bandit is a shameful thing. There's a popular story in the human race. The general content is that a young man accidentally obtained a cultivation method and became a heroic knight. He repeatedly robbed the rich to help the poor. Finally, he was forced to the mountains and formed a bandit gang. He beat the nobles of the kingdom until they were miserable and frightened. After that, the kingdom was invaded by foreign enemies, and the nobles rebelled. The young man led the bandit gang to save the capital. Because of an accident, he was found to be of the royal bloodline. In the end, he was recognized by the king, who thought that the young man's virtue was beneficial to the whole kingdom, like the light of the sun. The young man was thus infected with the territory and became a sun knight. At this point, Shaban raised his thumb and pointed at himself. I am not a human, but a giant. I also won't be the son of my race. Jaya nodded and put away the first fist ring with a complicated expression. Let me study it for a few days. Chapter 401. Chia and Shaban walked out of the tavern one after the other. Watching the two leave, Song Su and Sandao looked at each other speechlessly in a tavern room about a kilometer away. Ever since the ghost had snuck in, they had heard the contents of Shaban and Chia's conversation. Sandao was speechless. Giant Sha-bun, this guy is really amazing. This was his heartfelt praise. As a former mercenary group leader, Sandao immediately discovered that his vision and structure were completely different from Sha-bun's. This is a strategist, ambitious and highly skilled in politics. Song-su had once been a butler of a noble family. In his view, the mediation and negotiation skills that Sha Zhan had displayed in this conversation were quite experienced. Just by looking at Chia's performance, we can tell that Sha-bun is very effective. In fact, he used many things. For example, the relationship between Chia and the Lord of Fire Spray City, the former's love and reverence for the latter, and the love and attachment of these giants to their home, Fire Spray Island. He also attached great importance to the collection of information. When he was stationed in the city, he investigated many things. From this, we can see that this giant Sha-bun has a certain personality. For example, he plans before acting and is good at using things. Song-su and Sandao discussed for a while and decided to go back and report the situation first. Because the treasure chests were right under the eyes of Sha-bun and the others, it was extremely difficult to take action. Looking at Sha-bun's behavior, he should not have discovered that the saint-level puppet was missing. Song-su and Sandao returned to the agreed-upon location. ZD and Lan Zhao had also just returned. Hearing the personal accounts of the two groups, the young captain and the others sighed with emotion. I didn't expect that we would be saved by the customs of the giants and gain some time. But will the giants check the treasure chests after returning to their base? Should we hurry and steal the red and blue elemental essences before they find out? After all, once they find out, their defenses will be even tighter. If they check the treasure chests, we won't have enough time. The alchemy array in the inn hasn't been dismantled yet. It's very risky. Once discovered, there will be many traces left behind by us. But if we steal again, we'll definitely need it. Since Clan Leader 100 Needles is here, what should we do? Everyone discussed and expressed their opinions. The situation had become very complicated. Right then, a message came from Deep Sea Monster. Zhong Ji's situation was taking a turn for the worse. He was in grave danger. Haven't you always been using the green liquid to maintain your life force? Sandao suddenly became anxious. More messages were sent, indicating that there was a problem with the formation that created the green liquid. According to the Tower Genie's records, the golden green jade coffin had suddenly experienced a huge tremor, causing the array in the core area to be damaged beyond repair. As a result, the array failed. Golden green jade coffin. Everyone was bewildered. The blue charm god's true body and the feathered serpent god's main soul were imprisoned in the divine weapon. Song-su's face darkened. It seems that the confrontation between the two gods has become unstable. We have to hurry back and repair the array. By now, the other treatment methods could no longer stabilize Zhong Ji's body. They could only rely on the green liquid. However, the healing effects of the green liquid gradually weakened on Zhong Ji's body. They had to build a more complete alchemy array. Of course, they had to use the red and blue crystal clusters to make the green liquid more effective and heal Zhongge. Returning to Deep Sea Monster, everyone was shocked to find that the golden green jade coffin was empty. Where's the goddess? Everyone looked at each other, feeling as if they had fallen into an abyss. They hurriedly checked the Tower Genie's records and found that after the golden green jade coffin shook and destroyed the alchemy array, the goddess' true body in the golden green jade coffin slowly disappeared. The goddess left. Lan Zhao's eyes widened. Why didn't she take revenge on us? ZD frowned. Maybe she's too weak, Sandao guessed. Song-su shook his head slightly. If the goddess wakes up, what will happen to her injuries? The blue charm goddess was seriously injured and could only lie to herself and fall into a deep sleep to maintain her vitality. If she woke up, it would mean that she was going to die. The young captain suddenly said, she should still be inside, but our vision was deceived. Remember the sky pillar CEI? There is no half-plane there. The truth is that the goddess is in a deep sleep and emitted a divine domain. The young man's speculation was very reasonable. There were precedents of this situation, but who could be sure? Let me prove it. At the critical moment, the young man mustered up his courage and walked to the golden green jade coffin. Under everyone's gaze, he was about to reach into the coffin. His movements paused, and a red light appeared in the young man's body. He immediately transformed into the Murloc divine sun. Only then did he reach in and feel around. Immediately, the young man said in surprise, "I've touched her." But this feeling is also slowly disappearing. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. The goddess is still here. That's good. But we can't go on like this. That's right. The blue charm divine domain will continue to expand, at least to the size of the sky pillar CI. We can't bear it at all. By then, we will all fall into the divine domain and be deceived. The monster fish will also fall because of this. Damn it, at the critical moment, there was a fire behind us. Everyone was distressed. Some people held their heads, and despair appeared on their faces. It was as if the fire-breathing island was about to become a giant tomb where everyone was buried. Song-Su's voice was still calm. Thinking about it, it's not strange. The blue charm goddess is different from the feathered serpent god. The blue charm goddess has many believers. Even if the blue charm goddess is destroyed, there are still many believers left outside. The feathered serpent god is different. There are almost no believers left. The two gods were in a stalemate, but the blue charm goddess is gradually recovering. In time, she will definitely suppress the feathered serpent god's soul. Sandao's expression was ferocious. What's the use of analyzing this now? What are we going to do? Lord Zhonggu won't be able to hold on for long. Song-Su sighed bitterly. We could try to rebuild the alchemy array. The blue charm goddess's condition is stable now. ZD suddenly said. Perhaps it's because we used the golden sapphire coffin that weakened the feathered serpent god's soul even more. That's why the blue charm goddess is starting to gain the upper hand. Sandao's body trembled as he stared at ZD. ZD also looked back and said to Sandao, I'm just stating the facts. I'm not giving up on Zhonggu. However, even if we rebuild the array while the golden sapphire coffin is stable, we won't have the red and blue crystals. The array will be no different from before. It won't have much effect on Zhonggu. Everyone was silent. Then what are we waiting for? I'll steal it now or negotiate. Sandao immediately shouted. Steal it now? It's daytime. In front of the giant's eyes? If we want to steal it, we'll need the help of the silver gargoyle puppet. I feel like negotiation isn't a good choice. For what you said, that Sha Bun isn't an ordinary saint. He's very cunning. Everyone's words made Sandao's expression darken. He could hear the underlying meaning. Zhongji's condition is very bad. The young captain finished his inspection and stood up beside Zhonggu. Zhonggu had already been moved to the core cabin. After all, the core of the green liquid array was the golden sapphire coffin. Rebuild the original array first, the young captain ordered. This way, Zhonggu can at least hold on until the night after tomorrow. Tonight, we'll move again and steal it. We'll try to steal the red and blue crystals. Understood, sir. Song-Su bowed. In fact, we only need to repair it. After all, at least the core of the original array is damaged. Sandao looked at the young man gratefully and breathed a sigh of relief. However, just as Song-Su was repairing the array, the Justice Pirates once again found out an earth-shattering piece of information. What? The Imperial Navy headquarters was destroyed by pirates? It was the Firebeard pirates who did it. This group first set out from the pirate holy city and arrived at the eye of the sea pillar. Then they split up to confuse the enemy and finally raided the military port. Firebeard had burned down the military port almost single-handedly. Mudong was seriously injured and retreated. Blue Charm God flew away on the spot. The second leader, Duo Bai, the third leader, Feng Yao, and the newly promoted saint, Red Turban, all participated in this battle. Not only Feng Yao, it is said that Ash was also rescued by Firebeard from the eye of the sea pillar. The Justice Pirates were shocked. This was a military port, the headquarters of the Imperial Navy. It was actually destroyed, and by a pirate gang. This was really a disgrace to the Empire. For thousands of years, They had never seen the Empire suffer such a big loss. Firebeard, for a time, this name was deeply engraved in the hearts of everyone. After a few days of spreading, the news of the military port finally spread to the world. Flame Island was just one of the stops. On the holy monument in the pirate holy city, Firebeard's name was ranked first. This was the first time the three legendary pirate groups had made a move since the battle for the pirate throne. Unexpectedly, this move was earth-shattering, as if a hole had been poked in the sky. How will the Empire react now? Firebeard will definitely be counterattacked by the Grand Duke of the Empire. Is the war between legends and gods about to start? Not only that, Firebeard is now close to the pirate throne. What will the other two legendary pirate groups do? They will definitely be unfavorable to Firebeard. In an instant, the Firebeard pirates have made enemies on all sides. The situation is very dangerous. No, he should still have allies. Think about it. The orcs will probably protect Firebeard and show goodwill to him. Firebeard's current state is already half a step on the threshold of becoming the Pirate King. Everyone was discussing. The young captain's mood was very heavy. The situation is very bad, guys. Didn't I tell you? Kaze is cursed by the goddess of love, and he can sense the location of Blue Charm God. Even the Blue Charm God realm can't stop this ability. Our pearl foam is also difficult to hide. In other words, Firebeard knows the location of Blue Charm God and that we are hiding on Flame Island. These words made the discussion come to an abrupt end, and everyone fell into a dead silence. So our enemy is Firebeard's pirate group? After a long time, a voice broke the silence. For now, it seems so. Song Su sighed heavily. If we snatch Blue Charm God, we will definitely obtain unimaginable pirate divinity. At that time, Firebeard will definitely sit firmly on the throne and become the new Pirate King. There are other pirates. ZD's voice became hoarse. Firebeard is too bold. He even dares to attack the military port. He won't be too afraid of Flame Island. He got the information from Kaze. Once he attacks, he will attract a lot of attention. The other two legendary pirate groups will definitely not sit by and watch Firebeard succeed. They will definitely stop him. They will most likely attack us as well. Everyone's faces were pale. The Imperial Navy, the three legendary pirate groups, the Lord of Flame Island, Chia, Sanbun, and the dying Zong, the main body of Blue Charm God that was gradually getting rid of the stalemate and gaining the upper hand. God, what should we do? How did it turn out like this? If we knew this would happen, we should have just died on Fog Island. In this situation, even if we save Zongu, what can we do? He will still die. Everyone could not think of a way. And in the end, they all looked at the young captain. The young man slowly shook his head. What could he do? He walked out of the cabin with a frown. ZD looked at everyone and quickly left with the young man. The sky was very clear today. The sun shone brightly, and the sea and sky were the same color. A gentle breeze blew. The young man dived out of deep-sea monsterfish and came to an empty beach. He looked at the scenery in front of him. His heavy heart was a stark contrast to the natural beauty in front of him. ZD walked over. The footprints she left on the beach disappeared with the rising tide. The young man sat on the beach, and ZD sat beside him. The two of them sat side by side, but they did not speak. After a long silence, the young man whispered, I feel very guilty. I was the one who led everyone out of Fog Island, but now we are in a desperate situation. How did we end up like this? We just wanted to get rid of our crimes and find connections to contact the upper echelons of the Empire to get forgiveness and redemption. Perhaps the young man lowered his head and looked at the sand between his feet. I'm not a good leader. I'm not strong, and I'm not good at politics. If I was like Sanbun, perhaps the situation would be much better. Perhaps we would have successfully gotten rid of our crimes. No, it's not like that. ZD put her hand on the young man's arm. If you were Sanbun, then we would have fallen apart long ago. Sanbun is an ambitious person. Just because he is not reconciled, he will take risks without care of his own safety, even at the expense of the entire tribe. His chances of success are very low. In order to satisfy his selfish desires, he used the entire tribe as a tool. You are different. Believe me, you are better than Sanbon. In our group, who can really trust each other? Who can trust the beastmen, the goblins, or the necromancers? ZD smiled. Only you can lead us, because you are fair and just, and have never given up on any of your companions. The virtue of a knight persists and manifests in you. Everyone trusts and trusts you very much. Without you, we would have already had internal strife. You are the leader of all of us. Without you, this group would not have lasted until now. The young man shook his head and smiled bitterly. I'm a knight, aren't you? ZD raised her eyebrows. You practice Do Chi, White River Do Chi. According to the clues we collected, you should be a knight of the Empire, but not famous. A relatively ordinary silver knight. Even if something happened, it would not cause a big commotion. The war traffickers chose you to be Zhan Jin's substitute for a reason. The young man nodded. I guess so too. It's a pity that the true memories that belong to me never surfaced. Do you know? I have a plan. I want to find my original identity after I am free of my crime and be myself. Because that is me, the real me. But now, I'm just an idiot who knows nothing about my identity, a beast, a monster. Sometimes I'm also very afraid. When I become a dragon or a merman, I am worried that I will give up my former self and live for power. The young man looked at his hand and said, About this. ZD suddenly held the young man's hand. I have a different view from you. I like this about you. The young man's body shook and looked at ZD. ZD did not evade. Her pair of purple crystal eyes quietly stared at the young man. The two of them sat together on the beach and looked at each other. ZD sincerely said, In this world, no one will always be willing to accept their fate. At some point, people will always feel resentment, hatred, anger, and even despair. Everyone, including those geniuses. But relatively ordinary people like us feel even more. God said that people are sinful, so we need to atone for our sins. I admit it. When I was in dire straits in my life, I once had bad thoughts. I thought of murder and robbery. Everyone has dark thoughts, or a past that is unbearable to look back on. But with you here, around you, all of this can be tolerated, understood, and accepted by each other. Because you are a beast knight. In you, we all see ourselves. And you always adhere to justice and morality. Let us also believe in the beauty of human nature, that we can be saved. Yes, don't doubt, you are so special, so excellent, and deeply infatuated with you. ZD. The young man whispered. His mood was agitated, and he grabbed ZD's hand. ZD didn't pull her hand away. She boldly made a confession. She didn't want to repeat the mistake on the strange island. She wanted to seize the opportunity. It was likely that tomorrow, the Justice Pirates would be completely destroyed. She didn't want to regret it. The young man stared at ZD, and ZD stared at the young man. Their faces were getting closer and closer. Under the illumination of the sun, the shadows of the two people finally stuck together. After a long time, their lips parted. The beauty of love made ZD's cheeks blush, and her purple crystal eyes became more attractive. And the young man drew endless courage and motivation from it. He suddenly stood up. I've decided. What? ZD froze. The next moment, she saw the young man's determined face and burning eyes. I'm going to negotiate with Blue Charm Goddess. Chapter 402. Voodoo Rainforest. In the deep darkness of the night, the dense rainforest whimpered as the wind shuttled back and forth. On the ground full of rotten branches and leaves, the roots and vines that fell to the ground were intertwined with each other. Hiss, tricolored spearhead viper, jumping viper, horn palm viper, lateral band palm viper, coral snake, paradise tree snake, golden flower snake, viper, forest boa, forest cobra, and so on. Large groups of snakes gathered from all directions like a tide, drowning the soil, climbing and shuttling between the roots and vines. Their destination was only one, and that was the cabin in the woods. There seemed to be a huge temptation in the cabin, making these snakes desperate and fanatical. Pum! With a soft sound, a flame suddenly rose from the cabin in the woods. From the beginning of the flame, it was a raging fire, enveloping the entire cabin, burning fiercely and quickly spreading around. This was not an ordinary flame. The color of the fire was dark green. It did not emit any heat. Instead, as it burned, a strong chill eroded people's hearts. Seeing this green fire, the snakes became more manic and rushed into the flame. The green fire burned like a giant beast opening its mouth, swallowing all creatures. The snakes swam into the green fire, like candles meeting heat, quickly melting. Their scales, skin, and flesh were the first to melt. Then, the remaining snake bones also melted at a relatively slow speed. The snakes died more and more, and the melting of each snake provided the essence of the whole body to the green fire. The green fire got burning materials and burned more and more. Soon, the green fire reached 4 meters high and expanded to a radius of 300 meters, which was particularly conspicuous in the rainforest at night. Unlike the scene outside, there was not the slightest bit of green fire in the cabin. Instead, there was thick smoke. The smoke was very choking, and the 4 legendary powerhouses in the cabin almost held their breath. Except for Mo Lao. This female Naga, a legendary level diviner, was swaying her body in the smoke. She kept singing, her snake body swayed, and her arms were surrounded by gray mist. The ballad she sang was simple and ancient, yet it was filled with a mysterious and distant concept. The other 3 legends had been listening quietly for a while, feeling uncomfortable, and there was a horror lingering in their hearts. At first, it was Igue, one of the marine admirals, who came to the cabin in the woods and asked for help from his best friend Imolao. The first divination failed. After that, the 2 legendary pirate leaders, Hua Sheng and Asa, appeared. They brought the poison sex holy item and asked Mo Lao to perform another divination. Over the past few days, Mo Lao repeatedly performed divinations and failed repeatedly. Including the first time, she had already failed 4 times. Every time she failed, she would suffer heavy injuries. Her injuries worsened, but she continued to try. Every time he healed, rested, and prepared, the time he took to do so grew longer and longer. Every time, the method of divination became stranger and stranger, and the momentum became greater and greater. This was her 5th divination, and it should also be her last. According to the rules of the 5 Poison sect, the divination master could not repeatedly perform a divination. However, if one obtained the poison sect's relic, they would be able to override this rule. Asa brought 3 holy items, while Hua Sheng brought 1. The 5th time would be the last time, unless he found a new holy artifact. Amidst the thick smoke, Hua Sheng leaned against a wooden pillar. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the ink bag. He was tall and thin, with long ears and green hair. He had the unique handsomeness and confidence of the elf clan. The thin sword hanging at his waist was very eye-catching. The handle of the thin sword was like a rosebud, delicate like a work of art. Hua Sheng had used this legendary weapon to make a name for himself as the Great Sword Saint. Asa was huddled in a corner. There was only a ball of black smoke, and his figure could not be seen. He specialized in dark magic and had the bloodline of the evil demon. He was ruthless and vicious. This time, he had brought 3 of the poison sect's holy treasures to the poison sect by himself. Bright red lights lit up in the black smoke from time to time, revealing that Asa had been paying attention to the ink bag. And Igue looks like a princess, not a marine admiral. She was wearing an exaggerated golden pink princess dress with a wide and fluffy skirt. She wore long silk gloves and a lovely pink lace parasol, the handle of which hung from the crook of her arm. The smoke could not hide Igue's worried expression. The ink bag was her best friend, and she had a deep friendship with the ink bag. But at this moment, the ink bag's state made Igue worried. She had never seen the ink bag in such a miserable state. The originally plump figure was now as thin as a match. The originally smooth and beautiful snake scales had turned pale, as if she had been hit by a petrification curse. The ink bag's hair was originally strong and powerful, but now it was like a poisoned weed, extremely withered. The ink bag's mental state was also very abnormal. She sometimes giggled, sometimes was in a daze, sometimes gritted her teeth, and sometimes cried out fanatically. Finally, she was so tired that she stopped. Her chest was like a bellows, and she was panting. She stretched out her hand, and a medicine jar flew into her hand. Gulp, gulp. She opened the medicine jar and poured all the thick green medicine into her throat. Enough. Stop it, Mo Lao. You've already done your best and reached your limit. Igwe finally could not help but say, "No." The ink bag immediately shook her head. Hold on. I can hold on for longer. I can feel the ancestral spirits watching. They're all here. They're all crowded in the room. They're all waiting for me. The corners of Igue's eyes twitched. Don't continue. This potion is extremely toxic. You once told me that I could only drink 10 milliliters of it every time I used it. When you used it to heal your injuries during the divination, you knew how to control it. Look at you now. You're drinking it jar by jar. Do you want to die? There's too much poison accumulated in your body. How can you treat it in the future? Mo Lao drank the entire jar of medicinal water. Then, with a bang, he directly smashed the jar onto the floor. She grinned at Igue, revealing her teeth stained with green water. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. The ink bag comforted her best friend. My liver has long been modified by me. Its ability is very strong. It can detoxify poison and... Before she could finish speaking, the ink bag suddenly vomited. The vomit was very strange. It was like mud, but also like black oil. It was very thick and emitted a strong stench. Slap! There was a soft sound. An internal organ was also vomited out. The three legends present were all stunned. Hua Shing no longer leaned on the wooden pillar. Scarlet eyes lit up in Ace's black fog. Igue's eyes widened. She recognized it and couldn't help but exclaim, "Heavens, this is your liver. You vomited out your liver. Without a liver, how can you detoxify the poison?" The ink bag's face was pale. She forced a smile and said, "It's okay. Look at what I've vomited. These are the remnants of the medicine that I've digested. They all carry poison, but now I've vomited them out. Although my liver is gone, I still have my stomach. My digestive ability is very good. Ugh." Before she could finish speaking, the ink bag began to vomit violently again. Slap! Another internal organ was vomited out. Huasheng's expression changed slightly. Asang's black fog condensed into a human form. Igue covered her mouth. "Heavens! This is your stomach." The ink bag's face showed a determined expression. "Even if my stomach is gone, I will continue. As long as my heart is still beating, I will not stop." Ugh! In the next moment, she vomited out her heart as well. Huasheng lowered his hands and no longer hugged her with his arms. Asa took a few steps forward and carefully observed the ink bag's heart. Her expression was solemn. Igue was extremely nervous. "Ink bag." The ink bag's body shook, and she screamed shrilly, "Don't stop me. I'm about to succeed. Even if I don't have a heart, I can still survive for a while. As long as I'm still breathing." Bang. A small explosion suddenly occurred. The ink bag's entire chest was blown through, forming a large hole that connected the front and back. The lungs inside were blown into pieces and powder. This time, the ink bag's breathing also stopped. Igue. The Navy Admiral immediately took action and took out a scroll from her arms. But in the next moment, Hua Sheng and Sa stood on her left and right. "What are you doing?" Igue shouted and was about to attack with all her strength. "Calm down, Navy Admiral. We have no intention of harming you and the ink bag." That's right, the ink bag has already begun to break through. The voodoo sex things are very different from conventional mage cultivation. You're confused because you're concerned. Huasheng and Sa persuaded at the same time. Igue forced himself to calm down and saw the ink bag move again. Her movements were slow and difficult as she took out the voodoo sex holy objects one by one. She stuffed a frog-shaped copper holy object into the hole in her chest. Breathing is the sinking of the nose and mouth. In the next moment, she could breathe again. She then placed a blood-colored crystal holy object in the shape of a skull in the empty space of her heart. The heartbeat is the struggle of life. Thus, she had a heartbeat again. If you don't want to be digested by everything, then you have to digest everything. She stuffed the other two holy objects in her body and used them as her stomach and liver. After doing all this, she took a deep breath. Although her body was extremely weak and her injuries were extremely serious, and there was no treatment at all, her spirit was very excited. Ancestral spirits. She let out a shrill cry and then danced the sacrificial dance again. During the dance, her body began to emit light. No, to be precise, it was the light emitted by the holy objects in her body that constantly converged and merged with her body and soul. The smoke suddenly became thicker. The green fire in the house whistled and rolled wildly, sweeping away the surrounding snakes and trees, burning them into countless ashes. The ink bag's life aura underwent a subtle qualitative change. Igue and Hua Sheng both revealed shocked expressions. Demigod, Assam murmured softly. The ink bag's body shook. I see it. On fire-breathing island. After saying this, she fell to the ground with a bang. It was unknown whether she was alive or dead. Chapter 403. Spitfire Island. The alchemy factory inside the volcano. This is the place. The legendary giant Spitfire City Lord said to Tucker beside him. Tucker observed his surroundings. This was the deepest part of the factory and also the most heavily guarded place. The largest area was the central magma furnace. It had a radius of at least 500 meters and was surrounded by a dark golden dam. The dam was about 3 meters high and firmly wrapped around the boiling, gurgling orange-red magma. The heat was majestic, steaming Tucker's face. This should be the largest lava alchemy furnace in the Empire. Awesome. Tucker sighed from the bottom of his heart. With it, I can increase the efficiency of refining some alchemy items by at least 30%. The Spitfire City Lord couldn't help but laugh. Tucker's words greatly improved her impression of him. These were the words of an alchemist, which resonated with the Spitfire City Lord and made him proud. Tucker observed the alchemy tools around the wall. These tools were all very large. Some were like cranes, some were drilling machines, and some were huge iron pliers. These alchemy tools were all rough in shape, full of the style of giants. Tucker commented a few words and guessed the purpose of the tools. Most of his guesses were correct, allowing the Spitfire City Lord and Brick to feel his talent. There were also some guesses wrong. Tucker immediately asked for advice, his posture very humble. After the Spitfire City Lord explained a few words, Tucker praised. His words were meaningful, causing Brick to involuntarily raise the corners of his mouth. This is the main place where I make giant puppets. The space in other places is small, and only here can I use it. This is the latest puppet I've refined. Please take a look. The Spitfire City Lord took the initiative to say, giving Brick a look. Brick immediately moved, activating the array and turning on a certain switch. The next moment, the magma boiled and suddenly surged up, forming a small hill. The small hill broke open and magma flowed everywhere. A huge humanoid puppet slowly rose. There seemed to be a lift under its feet. Tucker's pupils shrank, revealing a solemn expression. His main purpose for coming here was this. Please forgive my offense. Tucker bowed and saluted the Spitfire City Lord. Take a look. The Spitfire City Lord smiled. This giant puppet sample had long been prepared for Tucker's use. Tucker used alchemy in succession, observing the inside and outside of the giant puppet. The giant puppet was 6 meters tall and had a robust physique. Its main material was made of copper and iron alloy, which had excellent hardness and toughness. There were arrays inside and outside the puppet, and after some observation, Tucker discovered that there were over 100 arrays. The arrays combined to form 3 major system array groups. They were the Power System Array Group, the Firepower System Array Group, and the defense system array group. Tucker was immediately engrossed in this. As his understanding deepened, his face couldn't help but reveal a hint of shock and astonishment. Tucker couldn't distinguish the main material used for the giant puppet's body. This was an exclusive alloy material, which should have been developed by the flame-spitting city alone. The material's performance is pretty good, but the key is the cost. Tucker guessed that the cost didn't seem high. This meant that mass production was possible. One must understand that this was a saint-level golem. Mass production, just the thought of it was enough to make one's heart palpitate. Apart from the main body's materials, the array formations arranged inside and outside the giant puppet's body were also very outstanding. Tucker counted carefully. There should be 121 arrays in the giant puppet. This number wasn't high. It could even be said to be very low. The number of arrays wasn't high, which meant that the cost of setting them up was limited to an acceptable range. This also meant mass production. The key was that the arrays were in harmony with each other, and their performance wasn't bad at all. There's one more thing. This is only a sample that the flame-spitting city showed me. The complete form of the giant puppet is definitely stronger than this one. After a short moment, Tucker stopped his alchemy spell. If your city's giant puppet appears, the entire arms market will be in turmoil. Even the Empire might have to purchase from your city. Tucker sighed, but the flame-spitting city lord shook his head. The cost is far higher than you think, Count Tucker. Moreover, the manufacturing process isn't simple. This is the place where the puppet can be manufactured. There are very high standards for the manufacturing environment. Sir Tucker, the rest is up to you. Brick was somewhat impatient. Tucker nodded. Although the giant puppet was good, it had an extremely important flaw. It had no intelligence. That was why the flame-spitting city invited him to enchant the giant puppet. Tucker took out a scroll from his bosom. This is a spiritual awakening scroll. My latest work. I think it's more meaningful to give it to Miss Brick to use. As he spoke, Tucker handed the scroll to Gia. This was a sanctuary-level scroll. When Brick took it, she couldn't help but show hesitation. As everyone knew, activating the intelligence of objects like alchemy puppets, mage towers, and magic ships consumed the caster's soul. After casting the spell, the upper limit of a mage's spirit would be permanently reduced. Tucker said, "Don't worry, the cost of using this scroll is only some of your magic power. It's completely unharmed to your soul and spirit." In an instant, Brick and the flame-spitting city lord's eyes shone with surprise. Brick immediately opened the scroll, imbued it with magic power, and successfully cast the spell. The scroll itself turned into ashes, but the condensed light flew into the giant puppet. Feeling the light, the alchemy array in the giant puppet's body quickly revolved, emitting strong magic power fluctuations. About a quarter of an hour later, the giant puppet's eyes suddenly lit up. First, it was its hands and feet, then its whole body. It started moving. The giant puppet stretched its limbs, first observing its body, then scanning its surroundings. When it saw the flame-spitting city lord and the other two, it bowed to Brick. "Master, Sandgord reports to you." Gia was a spellcaster, so the giant puppet took her as its master and listened to her orders. Even the name Sandgord was given by her. Tinya, on the other hand, had a serious look on his face. "Shagwa, introduce me, and show me your ability to a limited extent." Next, the giant puppet began its performance. Jumping, turning, running, rolling, crawling forward, using the array to activate spells to attack. Very good, very good. The flame-spitting city lord nodded repeatedly, unable to hide the joy on his face. This was exactly the result she wanted. "Count, if I hadn't used it myself, I wouldn't have believed that such a spiritual awakening scroll could exist in this world." Although Brick hated Tucker, she sincerely admired him at this moment. The flame-spitting city lord asked, "It was a wise decision to invite you to cooperate. Count Tucker, I wonder how much your spiritual awakening scroll costs?" Tucker smiled and quoted a price. The price surprised the flame-spitting city lord and Brick. It wasn't too high but too low. "Honorable Count, are you joking?" Gia almost doubted his own ears. Tucker smiled. In fact, the cost of making this kind of alchemy scroll is very low. According to my price, my profit margin is already very large. Normally speaking, the essence of spiritual awakening spells is the consumption of souls. I referred to necromancy and used the soul fragments of other casters to create this kind of scroll. I have to say, in the field of souls, necromancy is unique. It makes me gasp in amazement. Necromancy. The flame-spitting city lord and Brick's expressions changed slightly. Necromancy was strictly forbidden. Whether it was the Sacred Empire or the forces of other continents, they all suppressed and hunted them down. Tucker, however, secretly studied necromancy and directly told outsiders like the flame-spitting city lord and Brick. Was he showing his sincerity, or was he being careless? The two of you don't need to worry. I have already informed the patriarch of my clan about this, and I have already obtained the permission of the Empire. Tucker explained. Brick was immediately relieved. Yes, on one hand, the major forces were desperately suppressing necromancy. On the other hand, they were secretly studying and learning. With your scroll and our puppets, I believe that our cooperation will be very pleasant. The flame-spitting city lord smiled. Tucker also smiled and nodded. The craftsmanship of puppets was top-notch in Flame-Spitting City. His cooperation with Flame-Spitting City could be said to be a strong alliance. Next, they discussed the details of the cooperation in detail. After half a day, the discussion ended. Both sides reached a consensus. Tucker's straightforward personality once again attracted the favor of the Flame-Spitting City Lord and Brick. I just advocate fair trade, Tucker explained with a smile. After parting with the Flame-Spitting City Lord, Tucker returned to his residence in a very good mood. This time, he came to Flame-Spitting Island mainly for this cooperation. Now it seemed that the prospects of cooperation were very broad, and the future benefits were extremely huge and very tempting. Tucker, who was in a good mood, tried to refine items again. Double happiness came at the same time. His previous attempt on the ship had failed, but this time he succeeded. With this, I can complete the task assigned by my teacher. Tucker exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. It felt good to have nothing to do. He was looking forward to playing around and relaxing on Flame-Spitting Island tomorrow. Next, let me see who this deliberately destroyed magic device is contacting. Tucker poured magic power and activated the alchemy item. It's the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan. Tucker blinked and froze. Wait a minute, Tucker didn't believe the answer, but instinctively began to doubt himself. Did I refine the right item? He was inspired by the 9 mystical swords of the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan, so he built a new alchemy array. Therefore, the newly refined alchemy item might be related to the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan for other reasons. Tucker began a careful and comprehensive examination. When he was immersed in the field of alchemy, time passed quickly. Most of the night passed. Tucker looked surprised and doubtful. Yes, this is the truth. It's really the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan. Chapter 404. Jetty Island, Wharf. The head of the 100 Needles tribe and Armtile disguised themselves as mercenaries and shuttled through the narrow alleys. The alleys here were not narrow at all, which had the characteristics of the giants. The unique fishy smell of the wharf came from time to time. The head of the 100 Needles tribe and Armtile shuttled through the alleys, sometimes turning and sometimes stopping. In inconspicuous places, sometimes on the door of a thick wooden door, sometimes in the corner of a moss-covered wall, there were secret codes engraved on them. These codes looked like children's graffiti, but in fact, they were traceable and hinted at the next direction. The head of the 100 Needles tribe followed the instructions in the letter and found a secret code in the wharf. He had to save his son Junjin. This was the only future of the 100 Needles tribe. After a total of more than a dozen codes, the head of the 100 Needles tribe, an Armtile, finally stopped in front of the last code. The code was on the lintel of an abandoned hut. Armtile walked in cautiously. After checking, he returned in disappointment. "Sir, no one is here. There's only this." It was another letter. The head of the 100 Needles tribe unfolded the letter, but he couldn't make out the contents. He sighed. It's a code that needs to be deciphered. The way to decipher it is in the previous letter. This pirate group is very secretive. It seems that they have a big plan. The head of the 100 Needles tribe could only go back with disappointment and worry. Not long after he left, a flying insect flew out from a hidden corner. The flying insect was like a mosquito, inconspicuous, but its direction was clear. It went straight to Jetty Island in the center of the island. When it flew past a corner, the flying insect that had been lying in the corner also flew out and merged with it. After passing through the curtains of a restaurant, another flying insect flew out. When they passed a wild dog, another flying insect flew out from the dog's hair. The flying insect flew all the way, and its companions flew out from every corner one after another. The flying insects merged into one, and the buzzing sound became louder. They flew all the way through the alleys, passing through the dirty sewage and bypassing the noisy market. In a strong, fishy smell, they were indistinguishable from the normal mosquitoes and flies. They then jumped over the fields and rocks and passed through the city gate right under the eyes of the city guards. On the main road, they encountered a gold-level mage. The female mage frowned and waved her hand to disperse the swarm of mosquitoes and flies. She did not notice anything strange about them at all. In the end, these mosquitoes and flies flew into the inner city of Spitfire City and arrived at a garden villa that was specially arranged for VIPs to stay. The windows were already open. The mosquitoes and flies obediently flew in through the window and landed in a metal basin. The food had already been prepared in the basin. A large pile of elemental crystals had been specially ground into powder. In addition, in another metal basin next to it, there was a large amount of transparent, slightly brown lubricant. The swarms of mosquitoes and flies perched on the crystal powder and devoured it for some time. Then they flew into the lubricant and rolled a few times. In the end, they all stopped on the table, motionless as if they were dead. Not long after, Tucker opened the door and came in. Let me see what's going on. Out of curiosity, he used alchemy to activate another function of these alchemy mosquitoes and flies. Soon, a series of images appeared in Tucker's mind. Connecting these images, Tucker immediately knew the journey and experience of the Patriarch of 100 Needles and the Arm Tile. It's a mysterious, secret signal. What is he going to do? His real destination should be Spitfire Island. Is he going to secretly meet with the Justice Pirates? Wait, could it be that the Justice Pirates are here? Tucker frowned, and his face became solemn. No, this guess lacks evidence. The Justice Pirates contacted the Patriarch of 100 Needles, but it doesn't mean that the person the Patriarch wants to secretly meet at this moment is the Justice Pirates. Of course, this is not a small possibility. Tucker knew about the Justice Pirates. His teacher gave him this task and asked him to find clues of the sender from the magic communication device that had been blown to pieces. He had found it now. What made him a little dumbfounded was that the reason why he could find it so quickly was that he met the Patriarch of 100 Needles, who had been shipwrecked, and found inspiration through his legendary 9 swords. The Justice Pirates are related to Blue Charm Goddess. It's no small matter. What should I do? Tucker's status was very high. Besides, the Imperial Navy didn't want to hide the matter of Heaven's Pillar because it couldn't be hidden. By now, it was no longer a secret. Thinking of the extremely weak Blue Charm Goddess, Tucker was excited. Just like what Wei Sheng had in mind, Tucker also coveted the goddess' true form. But soon, he shook his head slightly. It's too risky. There's almost no reliable information at all. I'm just a sacred. I'd better tell this information to my teacher first. He didn't choose to tell this information to Spitfire Island first. On the one hand, he wasn't sure if the Justice Pirates were on the island. On the other hand, the giants of Spitfire Island were separated from the humans. It was related to the weak body of Blue Charm Goddess, and the benefits were too great. Of course, Tucker believed in the humans and his teacher more. Tucker made up his mind and immediately took action to report to his teacher. After a while, he reported the situation to his family. Not long after, he received a reply from his teacher. Teacher has already left and is applying for a teleportation portal. He's coming here in person? Tucker was a little speechless. He knew his teacher's nature well. He usually stayed in his alchemy lab, doing countless experiments and exploring the cutting edge of alchemy. He didn't expect him to go out this time. At least in 300 years, this is the first time teacher has gone out, right? But then Tucker thought about it and felt relieved. After all, this was related to the mystery of the gods. No legendary mage wouldn't be tempted. His teacher was the same. It's rare for teacher to leave. There must be a lot of movement in the city of knowledge. Should I strengthen my communication with the fire-spitting city? After all, the Lord of Spitfire Island is a legendary mage and also the master of the forces here. Teacher came here to deal with her and discuss an urgent cooperation agreement in private. Without a doubt, Tucker was an elite talent among the nobles. He immediately thought of what he had to do. However, just as he was about to leave, he received a second reply. At first, he thought it was a reply from his family, but he didn't expect it to be from his teacher. The contents of the letter surprised him. His teacher gave up on the idea of coming and no longer took action. At the same time, he clearly told him to leave. Leave Spitfire Island as soon as possible. Chapter 405. A large fleet was traversing the sea. Feng Yao stood on the side of the fleet's flagship, the mighty Flame, and looked into the distance. In front of him was an endless dark blue, and the sea breeze blew his long hair gently. The handsome bard looked sad at the moment, and his eyes were absent-minded, revealing endless thoughts. Dong dong dong. Heavy footsteps came from behind him. Feng Yao was not alarmed, but immersed in his own thoughts. Thinking of your goddess? The owner of the footsteps came to Feng Yao's side and looked into the distance. Only then did Feng Yao come to his senses. He turned around and looked at the person who had arrived. Boss! The person who came was the leader of the Flamebeard pirates, the legendary pirate Flamebeard. Flamebeard's burly body was in sharp contrast to Feng Yao's. The rough man smacked his lips and looked in the direction Feng Yao was looking and smiled. Your goddess is in that direction? Feng Yao did not make a sound. Is it on the Flame Island? Flamebeard asked again. Feng Yao's heart was shocked, but his face did not change. Why do you think so? He had the curse of Love God, so he knew where Blue Charm God's body was. But Feng Yao was also worried that others would plot against the goddess, even though Flamebeard had promised him that he would not plot against Blue Charm God's body. But of course, Feng Yao was not willing to let his beloved take any risks. Flamebeard looked at Feng Yao and sighed deeply. If it's not, then it's best. You can rest assured that I will not go back on what I promised you. But if your goddess is really on the Flame Island, then there will be big trouble. According to the information I just received, now Huasheng and Asa have started to move, and they are rushing to the Flame Island very quickly. These two seem to have reached some kind of agreement in private. The Flame Island is guarded by a legendary giant, but these two guys suddenly joined forces and desperately attacked the island. This situation is very unusual. In my opinion, there's only one thing that is worth the two of them suddenly joining forces and launching such an action. That is to stop me from plundering the goddess body. Feng Yao's breathing suddenly became rapid, and his face became quite ugly. He didn't think that Firebeard was lying to him, because this kind of thing was easy to verify. Both Asa and Huasheng were legendary pirates who were as famous as Firebeard. Once they moved on a large scale, it would be difficult to cover up the news. It shouldn't be like this. Feng Yao's face was pale as he hugged his head in distress, his voice filled with disbelief. Seeing his expression, Firebeard naturally got the answer, and his expression became serious. The second in command, Multi-Arms, walked over and said, "Third brother, the situation doesn't look good. We've just taken out the Empire's Navy headquarters and paid a heavy price for our boss to get close to the pirate throne. If the other two pirates succeed at this time, then the situation will be even, and we might even fall behind." Feng Yao's body was on the verge of collapsing. He had to lean on the side of the ship to stabilize himself. He has the clergy of deception and disguise. He shouldn't have been exposed like this. Firebeard patted Feng Yao's shoulder. Multi-Arms asked, "Do you know about ink bugs?" "Who?" Feng Yao was puzzled. Multi-Arms shook his head slightly. "She's a legendary level clairvoyant and a believer of the poison sect. Previously, her reputation wasn't very prominent. But after this, I'm afraid she'll be famous all over the world." According to our information, Asa and Hua Sheng asked her to do a divination at the same time. In the end, she divined the location of the fire-breathing island. For a moment, Feng Yao's breathing gradually stopped, and cold sweat began to seep out of his forehead. "Boss Firebeard." Suddenly, he woke up and looked at Firebeard with a pleading gaze. Firebeard laughed. "Don't worry. Although I'm not very interested in the pirate throne, I don't want those two guys to succeed. More importantly, it's related to my brother's most beloved woman." "Boss." Feng Yao was so moved that his eyes turned red. This was Firebeard. He was heroic, willing to think for his brother, and also had the strength to stand up for his brother. Since leaving the military port, the double sword had been sailing on the sea for a long time. Wei Sheng's complexion was haggard these few days, and he had heavy dark-eye bags. He couldn't sleep well and was under great pressure. The Empire's Navy headquarters had been taken out, which made the sacred Empire lose face and was also a disgrace to the Empire's Navy. Wei Sheng was held accountable. This was because he had taken most of his power to form a huge fleet and left the military port to deal with the Justice Pirates and Blue Charm God's body. This made the military port fall into a state of extreme weakness, and then the Firebeard pirates succeeded in their sneak attack. After Bai Tong escaped, for his own sake, the first thing he did was to point his spear at Wei Sheng. "This time, when I return to the Empire, I'm afraid I'll be stripped of my Navy rank." Wei Sheng thought of this and clenched his fists, feeling extremely unwilling and angry. Everything was because of the Blue Charm God's body, because of the Justice Pirates. But the embarrassing thing was that he hadn't even seen their shadow until now. This was a failure. Stripping the rank wasn't the point was failure. Wei Sheng hated failure the most. I don't want to. Just as he was screaming in pain, a subordinate suddenly came to report. "What did you say?" Wei Sheng's attention was immediately attracted by the information. The news from Admiral Igue, Blue Charm God's body, is on the fire-breathing island. Also, the two pirate leaders also rushed to the fire-breathing island. Igue had participated in and witnessed the entire process of Mo Lao's divination. In order to stop Firebeard, Hua Sheng and Asa were determined and acted with a lot of madness. As a Marine admiral, Igue naturally wanted to stop them, but of course, he didn't want to bear the pressure alone. After all, Firebeard had destroyed the Marine headquarters before and beat Datong badly. Therefore, they naturally chose to report to the Marine headquarters for help. As the acting fleet admiral, Wei Sheng received this key information. The legendary diviner Mo Lao. No, he should be a demigod now. This result should be good. The fire-breathing island. There is a legendary giant mage there. Why would the Justice Pirates go there? Wait, I understand. It's the Abyss. They must be trying to escape into the Abyss through the weak point of the space there to avoid the Empire's pursuit. Wei Sheng felt like a bolt of lightning had struck his heart. Everything made sense. It seems that Blue Charm God has really declined. Otherwise, she would never take the risk to sneak into the Abyss. I still have a chance in this case. I still have a chance. In an instant, Wei Sheng was full of momentum and motivation. The previous decadence, confusion, anger, and so on were swept away. He is such an elite. As long as there is a chance of victory, he'll go all out to fight for it. From childhood to adulthood, he has never given up easily. This time, he will definitely not. Let me see, what should I do? First, inform Yin Tan. This old thing. Wei Sheng gritted his teeth. If he doesn't appear this time, even if I am stripped of my rank, I will find him to settle accounts. Then, let me see who is the closest to the fire-breathing island. What kind of forces can I mobilize? Wei Sheng quickly went to the war room to check the marine map. Then his eyes slightly narrowed. He saw a marine fleet docked on the fire-breathing island at this moment. How lucky! Wei Sheng was overjoyed, but after checking the marine designation, his expression became a little strange. The fleet in the desert. Why is it him again? Chapter 406. A lot of information immediately flashed through Wei Sheng's mind. This is all about Rear Admiral Tan Mo. Being able to be valued by Marine Fleet Admiral Tan and delegated to him. Wei Sheng naturally has his own uniqueness. Wei Sheng is very familiar with Tan Mo's greedy nature, and recalling the latter's previous behavior, he suddenly snorted and said to himself discontentedly, "Another one." Marine Rear Admiral Tan Mo was in Knife Mountain Island before. After receiving the military order to deal with the Justice Pirates, the Blunt Knife City alchemy bomb explosion happened, so his hands and feet were tied. Without his fleet, the battleship led by Rear Admiral Chiao was not in good condition, and the result was that the entire fleet was wiped out. After that, Tan Mo took the opportunity to annex the team left by Chiao's fleet at the Knife Mountain Island dock and set sail again. As a result, in the subsequent voyage, his fleet was frequently in bad condition, either attacked by sea beasts or encountered bad and extreme climate changes, resulting in the speed being hindered and unable to increase. Therefore, he has not participated in the battle with the Justice Pirates. As for why Rear Admiral Tan Mo entered the Flame Island, Wei Sheng immediately knew the reason. He used the excuse that the fleet was in bad condition and needed to stop and rest. This guy, he didn't want to be lazy, but now he's here by accident, right? Wei Sheng suddenly had a guess in his heart. Yes, if it wasn't for the information, even Wei Sheng wouldn't have thought that the Justice Pirates would sneak into the Flame Island. After all, the Flame Island itself has a legendary giant mage. In addition, there is the vast ocean. The Justice Pirates can choose too many escape routes. No, maybe he did it on purpose. Because he is a member of Admiral Igui's faction, it is also very likely that he was forced by the latter to land on the Flame Island first. When Wei Sheng thought of this, he completely dispelled the idea of giving orders to Tan Mo's fleet, and he didn't even inform him. The reason for this is very simple. If Fruit Desert was a fluke, then Wei Sheng was sure that he would run away at the last minute. Of course, the reason will be very legitimate, making it more difficult for the Marine headquarters to pursue in the future. If Tan Mo was instructed by Igui, then without Wei Sheng's order, Tan Mo will continue to stay and wait for the opportunity to move. With regards to Wei Sheng's orders, Tan Mo, who had someone above him, would definitely obey in public, but disobey in private. In a restaurant in the harbor of Flame Spitfire Island, Tan Mo and the mayor of Blunt Blade City sat opposite each other with leftovers on the table. Tan Mo ate the last bite of steak and let out a sound of admiration. "I told you, the chef here can handle gold-level magical beast meat. How does it taste?" "Very good." The mayor of Blunt Blade City nodded in agreement. He breathed the sea breeze through the window and watched the white seabirds flying above the fluttering flags. The mayor of Blunt Blade City raised a cup in his hand and said, "Most importantly, the coffee here is not bad. I'm a little tired of drinking on your treasure ship." Tan Mo immediately rolled his eyes. The mayor of Blunt Blade City laughed. From accepting the invitation of the Empire to boarding the ship and traveling in the desert, the relationship between the city lord and the major general rapidly deepened. There was nothing they could do about it. The two of them had joined hands to slack off in battle, forming a proper front line. Previously, they had cooperated in Blunt Blade City. Along the way, they had pretended to be attacked by sea beasts or created bad weather. Slacking off, especially in the Imperial Navy, required a lot of energy and effort. Next, the two did not speak. Both enjoyed the tranquil sea breeze and the beautiful scenery of the harbor. Even if the interior of the treasure was vast, after sailing for so long, the two missed land. At this moment, as they reminisced about the delicious food, the accumulated boredom in their hearts was quickly fading. "How many days do we have to rest here?" The mayor of Blunt Blade City broke the silence. Tan Mo sighed. "We're too unlucky." The attack of an unknown mysterious beast has caused great damage to our ship. We have to rest for at least a week. The mayor of Blunt Blade City frowned. So short. The mayor of Blunt Blade City had accidentally told the truth. He quickly corrected himself. That long? I was invited by the Empire to fight, but I haven't even seen the shadow of the righteous pirates. I'm ashamed. Tanamo smiled, then spread his hands and said in distress, My lord, your mood is my mood, and I'm also very anxious. But a week is the shortest time I can buy. You know the damage of the fleet, and the Navy has been urging us. This is already the limit of what we can buy. That's it. The mayor of Blunt Blade City nodded. In terms of slacking off, he admitted that he was far inferior to Tanmo. What's more, Tanmo was more familiar with the rules of the Navy. It's rare to come to Spitfire Island. Should we go to the main city? Tanmo suggested. But the mayor of Blunt Blade City showed a hint of embarrassment. Let's not. According to our identity, we have to visit the Lord of Spitfire Island. Besides, it's not good to go shopping rashly. Yes, Tanmo thought about it and felt that the mayor of Blunt Blade City was right. Before, he had no problem doing this. But not now. The matter of the righteous pirates hasn't been solved yet. The key is that the Marine Headquarters military port was destroyed by Firebeard. This situation made all the Marines feel shocked, angry, and humiliated. Almost all of them held their breath and wanted to get back at the scene. At this stage, if the Marines heard that someone was slacking off, how would they react? Tanmo didn't want to get into such trouble for no reason. At this moment, Tanmo's expression changed slightly. He saw a human mage alone, leaping into the air and landing on the steel giant docked at the dock. Is this Earl Tucker? Not only Tanmo, but the mayor of Blunt Blade City was also attracted and immediately recognized the identity of this person. It's him. Tanmo nodded. Then, the two of them saw Count Tucker land on the deck and hurriedly walk into the ship. Then, the steel giant started and quickly left the dock. Where is he going? Isn't he negotiating with the Lord of Spitfire Island? The mayor of Blunt Blade City was puzzled. They came to this dock and naturally inquired about the news. The biggest thing recently was Tucker's invasion, and the Lord of Spitfire Island personally greeted him. Therefore, Tanmo and the mayor of Blunt Blade City knew about this matter. But now Tucker just left. It was a bit strange. According to common sense, the negotiation between the two sides would take at least a week. Even if the cooperation failed, the Lord of Spitfire Island would send Tucker away and wouldn't let him leave alone. Something must have happened during this, something they didn't know. Tanmo stared at the steel giant as it left. He narrowed his eyes and sucked in a cold breath. Why do I feel like Count Tucker seems to be fleeing? Is it just my imagination? Why is my heart beating so fast? Something doesn't feel right. The mayor of Blunt Blade City laughed and didn't think much of it. You're overthinking it. Could it be that the negotiation between Earl Tucker and Spitfire Island fell apart? But soon, the mayor of Blunt Blade City denied this speculation. Even if the negotiation fell apart, it shouldn't be like this. Could Tucker have done something to betray Spitfire Island? Could it be that Zuya has taken a fancy to him? The mayor of Blunt Blade City was amused by himself. But Tanmo's frown deepened. I feel more and more uneasy. Damn it, this feeling is very uncomfortable. Brother, don't panic. The mayor of Blunt Blade City comforted him. This is Spitfire Island. There are legendary giants overseeing this place. The defense here is very tight. Haven't you been to the main city? Look at those giant city guards. They're very elite. This is the last essence of the giant race of the Red Earth Plateau. In their eyes, our strength is simply insignificant. Yes, you're right. Tanmo's brows relaxed a little. I'm a little paranoid. But at this moment, a subordinate ran over with sweat all over his forehead. Sir, there's an emergency message from Admiral Igue. What? Tanmo froze for a moment, and then he didn't dare to neglect and quickly left his seat. Using the magic communication device, he received a direct order from Admiral Igue. Are you on Spitfire Island? Very good. Stay there and guard against all enemies. I'm on my way. If the righteous pirates appear, fight to the death. Tan Mo. Chapter 407. Tan Mo didn't know how he got back to the restaurant. Seeing Tan Mo's dazed expression, the mayor of Blunt Blade City felt his heart skip a beat. What happened? He asked hurriedly. Tan Mo slowly turned his eyes and stared at the mayor. But the mayor could see that his eyes were extremely silent, and there seemed to be a huge hole in his heart. What happened? The mayor of Blunt Blade City panicked. It was the first time the mayor of Blunt Blade City had seen Tan Mo like this since he met him. Slap, slap, slap. Suddenly, Tan Mo stretched out his hand and slapped himself hard in the face. With a crisp sound, his cheeks and palms quickly turned red. The mayor of Blunt Blade City was stunned. For a moment, he was quite at a loss. Tan Mo said in a crying tone, "Yes, you deserve it. I really deserve it. What was I thinking? I wanted to come to Spitfire City to resupply. I was wrong. I was really wrong. If I had another chance, I would have stayed far away from this island." The mayor of Blunt Blade City slapped the table anxiously and growled. What happened? Tan Mo covered his face with his hand and told the mayor the truth with a heavy heart. After learning the situation, the mayor of Blunt Blade City was dumbfounded. If they had known this would happen, why would they have tried to be sneaky? In the end, they still ran into the Justice Pirates. It was simply outrageous. Today, the information about the Justice Pirates and Blue Charm Goddess had spread widely. Tan Mo and the mayor of Blunt Blade City already knew the inside story. When they first heard about it, they were very lucky to have escaped a disaster. But now they still ran into them. Should we leave? The mayor of Blunt Blade City hesitated. You're crazy. Tan Mo's previous attitude was gone. This is an order from Igue-sama. If we leave, we will be court-martialed by the Empire. There will be no more prospects for our lives in the future. The mayor of Blunt Blade City stared. Do you mean that the two of us are going to fight against the gods? Blue Charm Goddess is very weak, but we can't deal with it. Any beast on the verge of despair is the most dangerous, let alone the gods. If you don't even have your life, what's the point of talking about the future and prospects of life? Tan Mo sighed. Of course what you said makes sense. But I just received a military order, and the next step is to leave the island. This is desertion. How does the Empire deal with deserters? We will definitely be sentenced to death. Instead of being treated as a deserter and sentenced to death in disgrace, I might as well take a gamble here. The mayor of Blunt Blade City widened his eyes even more. He could not help but suspect that the desert before him was a fake one. You still want to take the risk? Tan Mo spat out a mouthful of saliva and cursed. If we don't fight, what else can we do? We will definitely participate in the battle. We can only act according to the circumstances. Let's go back to the ship now, not on the island. God knows where the Justice Pirates are hiding. This island is too dangerous. The mayor of Blunt Blade City nodded repeatedly. That's right. When we return to the ship, we can attack or retreat. It's very flexible. Immediately, the two of them did not dare to delay and hurriedly returned to the treasure. Standing on the deck, Tan Mo and the mayor of Blunt Blade City watched the steel giant disappear into the sea. They wished they could replace Tucker on the ship. Tucker looked at the shrinking Spitfire Island in his field of vision and sighed inwardly. When he received the message from his teacher, he immediately understood that Spitfire Island had become a place of trouble and was very dangerous. Without any hesitation, he retreated directly. Then, he received a reply from his family. This message made him understand that the location of Blue Charm God's main body had been divined by a newly ascended demigod fortune teller. Now, the three legendary pirates, Firebeard, Hua Sheng, and Asa, had obvious movements. They all pointed their weapons at Spitfire Island. Blue Charm Goddess probably wants to use the geographical advantage to escape to the abyss. Tucker guessed. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. He sensed that his puppet clone had been received by the mayor of Spitfire Island. Although Tucker's main body had left Spitfire Island, he had left behind a sanctuary-level alchemy puppet. This puppet's appearance and aura were very similar to Tucker's, and it was extremely expensive to make. Its greatest use was to act as Tucker's substitute in certain situations, confusing the enemy and attracting their firepower. It was definitely not feasible to just leave like this. As a noble, Tucker understood the rules and importance of interpersonal relationships very well. At this moment, the puppet Tucker successfully met the mayor of Spitfire Island and told him all this important information. The righteous pirates? And Blue Charm Goddess main body. The mayor of Spitfire Island was shocked. She was at the legendary level. According to the level of life, she was inferior to the gods. The key was that because of Blue Charm Goddess main body, Spitfire Island had fallen into a very dangerous situation. The three legendary pirate groups were swarming over. A war was imminent. The mayor of Spitfire Island did not want to see his home reduced to ruins after a war. After pondering for a moment, she first expressed her most sincere gratitude to the puppet Tucker. Then, she immediately asked for help from the upper echelons of the empire. Finally, she urgently gathered the powerhouses under her command, as well as her personal guards, and told them the whole story. Spitfire Island must not become a battlefield for legends or even gods. This is our only home left. Thank you, our friend Earl Tucker, for bringing us detailed information. The righteous pirates are on the island. They are likely to be in contact with the leader of the Hundred Needles clan. They want to continue infiltrating the sacred empire. We must seize this clue and find them all. They are not allowed to destroy the peace of Spitfire Island. I will personally lead you to war with Blue Charm Goddess and expel them from the island. The mayor of Spitfire Island's prestige and appeal were very strong. His subordinates all responded and obeyed his orders. The puppet Tucker watched all this and nodded to himself. The mayor of Spitfire Island's response was very correct. The three pirate groups were here for Blue Charm Goddess main body. Instead of a war breaking out in the future, the mayor of Spitfire Island would protect it in front of three powerhouses of the same level. It will be better to start a war first and scare Blue Charm Goddess away. My lord, my sanctuary puppet is also very willing to fight side by side with you. The puppet Tucker said in a timely manner. The mayor of Spitfire Island's expression softened slightly. He squeezed out a smile and nodded to the puppet Tucker. The giants of the Red Plateau will definitely remember the Earl's friendship. Zacchaeus said, I think the power of the Sand Yellow clan can also be used. The mayor of Spitfire Island was slightly taken aback. He took a deep look at Zacchaeus and said with relief, then tell them the truth. It's all up to them. Understood. Zacchaeus immediately retreated. Half an hour later, somewhere in a dark corner of the port, seeing the mermaid deity and the others in front of him, the patriarch of the Hundred Needles clan was shocked. Righteous pirates. Armtile's face was livid. The moment the Murloc deity appeared, he knew that his side had gotten themselves into big trouble. I hope to borrow the power of the Hundred Needles clan to help us get out of danger. The mermaid deity went straight to the point. That's impossible. The patriarch of the Hundred Needles clan shook his head, his face pale. What's the difference between saving you and betraying the Empire? Huh? The mermaid deity chuckled. Don't be so hasty to refuse. First of all, I didn't put all my hopes on you. Don't be too stressed. Second, think about Jinjin. He's the only heir of the Hundred Needles clan. Finally, don't worry too much. We sneaked into Spitfire Island. Our itinerary was very secretive. Who would know? In fact, all we need is a little cooperation. The patriarch of the Hundred Needles clan and Zacchaeus were silent. They were in a dilemma. On the one hand, he was the only heir of the clan. On the other hand, there were serious consequences of betraying the Empire. After looking at the patriarch of the Hundred Needles clan and Zacchaeus' struggling and painful expressions for a while, the mermaid deity was about to continue to persuade them. At this time, a large number of giant warriors suddenly flashed around. The mayor of Spitfire Island, Zacchaeus, Bun, and the puppet Tucker immediately rose up and surrounded the mermaid deity and the others. The mermaid deity and the others looked up and were shocked. The patriarch of the Hundred Needles clan and Zacchaeus were also surrounded. The former's face was pale. With incomparable bitterness and resentment, he said to the mermaid deity, "You call this very secretive?" Chapter 408. Seeing a legend and 3 saints in the sky. The mermaid deity and the others were shocked. "Damn it, we've been discovered. Let's run." "Wait." The mermaid deity waved her hand and said to the Lord of Spitfire City, "My lord, we have no intention of being your enemy." The mermaid deity tried to communicate, but before she could finish, the Lord of Spitfire City interrupted her with a cold snort. "You're my mortal enemy the moment you set foot on Spitfire Island. But I'm willing to give you a chance. Leave now. Otherwise, Spitfire Island will be your graveyard." The Lord of Spitfire City didn't intend to attack directly. This was her home, the last place where the giants of the Red Earth Plateau lived. The mermaid deity in front of her was only at the silver level, and the others were even more insignificant. The Lord of Spitfire City was still afraid of Blue Charm God behind them. Who knew how much power Blue Charm God had? The mermaid deity nodded. "We'll leave Spitfire Island immediately and go to the abyss." "No." The Lord of Spitfire City was furious. "I'm responsible for guarding the entrance to the abyss. How can I let you enter so easily? Give up on that idea. This is not negotiable." "Then there's no other way." The mermaid deity laughed. "Let's go." The negotiation failed, but the mermaid deity and the others had other means. The next moment, a dazzling light shone under their feet. Amidst the radiance, a large-scale formation appeared. The array was quickly activated and teleported the mermaid deity and the others out. "Wait!" The 100 Needles chief hurriedly shouted, trying to stop them, but it was too late. In fact, even the Lord of Spitfire City could only use spiritual charge without using any spells. The array in the air quickly dissipated. The Lord of Spitfire City immediately rose into the air and looked around, observing the entire Spitfire Island. Gia and the other 2 saints were doing the same thing as her. This kind of array must have another end. Sure enough, the next moment, the other end of the array appeared. It was just 5 or 6 arrays shining at the same time, their auras bursting out, evenly distributed all over Spitfire Island. Only one of them was a real array, and the others were obviously fake. The Lord of Spitfire City frowned slightly. "Go all out. Find them and kill them on spot." Before she finished speaking, she took the lead and flew towards the farthest point of light. Brick and the others immediately responded and flew away. "Sir, what should we do?" In the alley, the Armtile asked. The chief of the 100 Needles tribe took a deep breath, his face full of anxiety. "Let's go after them and cooperate with the governor of Spitfire City and the others to quickly identify the real one." It was exposed that the 100 Needles clan was in contact with the alien gods. This fact was too unfavorable for the 100 Needles clan. In addition, the leader of the 100 Needles clan had to rescue Jinjin, so he had to do his best to atone for his crime. The Murloc Divine Child and the others were panting heavily. The feeling of using the teleportation array was very uncomfortable, and they needed time to get used to it. The mermaid deity had the best physique and was mentally tough, so he was the first to react. His vision cleared up, and his hearing and sense of smell returned to normal. Then, he saw the radiance of a teleportation array quickly dissipating. So fast, the Divine Son's expression changed. It only took them 4 to 5 seconds to teleport to the Murloc deity, and one of the camouflage arrays was broken. It should be the work of the governor of Spitfire City himself. Legendary wizards had too many tricks up their sleeves. The Murloc Divine Child hurriedly dragged Song Su and ZD, one in each hand, and took the lead to escape. As he exclaimed, Lon Zao, Sandao, and the others followed closely behind. "I see you." Sha-Bun sensed the movement and sneered. He immediately stretched out his palm and aimed it at the Murloc Divine Child and the others. The next moment, he released his fighting technique. The ground where the Murloc Divine Child and the others were running suddenly ejected countless sharp stone spikes. Each spike was at least 2 meters long. and the tip was as sharp as a spear. The Murloc divine child and the others couldn't escape in time and were pierced by the spikes. They became corpses hanging on the spikes, and blood flowed everywhere. "It's over." Sha-Bun smiled and flew over slowly and cautiously. However, when he arrived at the scene, his expression suddenly changed. The corpses of the Murloc divine child and the others in front of him turned into bubbles and disappeared before his eyes. "It's fate." Sha-Bun's heart sank, and he flew into the sky again. Then he saw that he wasn't the only one. The mermaid divine son and the others had appeared in other places. Some of them were blasted into carbon powder by Taya, while others were burned by the puppet Tucker. But then, without exception, they all turned into bubbles and dispersed. What's going on? Are they all fake? Everyone was puzzled. At this moment, the Lord of Spitfire City's eyes focused and looked at the bottom of the sea. She sensed that there was an alchemy ship in the depths of the sea, diving at full speed to escape from Spitfire Island. It's the underwater magical ship in the shape of a strange fish. Is the teleportation formation at the other end on the ship? They want to use it to escape. In an instant, all kinds of guesses appeared in her mind. "We found traces of the enemy. Follow me." The Lord of Spitfire City waved his hand and took the lead to fly out of Spitfire Island, like a crimson meteor, extremely fast. Taya and the others followed closely behind and flew out as well. At another dock, the treasure was docked. "Tenemo, what should we do?" The Lord of Blunt Blade City looked hesitant. "Should we go after them?" Tanmo's expression was conflicted. The fluctuations and radiance of the formation had caused too much of a commotion. Then, the Lord of Spitfire City, Taya, and the others made a move openly, shocking everyone. The treasure had been in a state of alert. As soon as the teleportation fluctuations appeared, Tanmo and the others reacted. But they were very hesitant and did not make a move, because they saw the Murloc Shinsi and the others confirming that the Justice Pirates were on the island. Tanmo was only a gold level and did not want to fight Blue Charm God at all, especially at this time, when Admiral Gue had not appeared yet. He had no one to rely on at all. He could only delay. And then he saw the Lord of Spitfire City and the others fly out of the island, and it was obvious that they were chasing the enemy. "My superiors want me to fight to the death. If I still shrink back, I'll definitely be court-martialed. But if I rush up now, won't I be courting death? Blue Charm God can kill me with one finger, no one look." Tanmo gritted his teeth, and his head was already covered in cold sweat. At this moment, there was a loud boom. The entire Spitfire City shook, and the volcano in the city spewed out thick black smoke. Then, an extremely majestic aura of life was exposed from within. God level. It was a genuine God-level creature. "It's Blue Charm God." Sha-Bun's pupils shrank, and he could not help but exclaim. The Lord of Spitfire City and the others stopped flying. "We've been tricked." The Murloc Shinsi deliberately attracted our attention. Puppet Tucker's tone was cold. "Let's go back together." The Lord of Spitfire City glanced at the gold-level magic ship that was about to be caught and did not hesitate to turn back. Taya hesitated for a moment and quickly followed the Lord of Spitfire City. Puppet Tucker and Sha-Bun took a deep look at deep-sea monster fish and also flew back to Spitfire Island. "Quick, let's go. Our target is that underwater magic ship." Seeing this, Tenmo was so happy that he almost jumped up. Other than Blue Charm God, the Murloc Shinsi and the others were at most silver level. Tanmo suddenly became bold. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.